Batwoman, episode 16, which means this is almost over. And we only got, what, 5, 6 episodes left? It's your boy Icon. We're going over the episode 16, which is titled The Rebirth. The Rebirth indeed. For a lot of characters. So in the last episode, Luke had gone into the, well, he almost went into the light. He chose to go into the light. And then he just, then because Ryan and Mary gave him the Desert Rose, he ended up coming back to the land of the living. So now he's here and he's upset because he actually wanted to die and he wanted to go be with his dad. So the episode starts with Batwoman. She's out in the streets taking down some criminal scum, and then there was somebody who ended up getting injured, and then while the person got injured, Ryan got on the comms, and she was like, Batwoman, a Batcave. She's like, I need medical attention. Batwoman, a Batcave, and then nobody answered. The Batcave was empty, and then you saw Luke. He was just sitting on the ledge of the building, and he was just staring off into space. So Ryan comes back, and then she was just like, hey, she's like, maybe it was too soon for you to come back, to come back to the team based on everything that happened to you. And then Luke, in a very dickish way, he was just like, yo, just get out my face. And he's like, I just want to be alone. And then, Ryan was like, all right, she was just like, all right, Mary and I, we can take care of the bat duty until you come around. But he was just like, nah, he was like, I just need space from all y'all. And then, then she just was like, all right, then she left. So what Luke is doing now that he's basically come back to life, he's not going to go back behind the desk and just, quarterback Batwoman as far as taking down criminal scum. He now wants to take matters into his own hands. And then he finds out that the dude that shot him, Tagaroff, or I forgot the dude name now. He finds out that the guy, he ended up getting out on bond because he did get arrested in the last episode because Jacob Kane blew the whistle on him for falsifying the evidence. But he's out on bond now, so now Luke is just like, yo, screw that. This guy's out on bond. I'm gonna go down there and I'm gonna whoop his ass. So apparently there's a cop bar, like a law enforcement bar, where it's a bar that only different types of law enforcement, types of people go. So Luke ends up, come up with a fake ID. He ends up, dressing up in normal clothes. He has a Scully hat on, a hoodie, jeans, whatever, which is weird because we always see Luke in the suit and tie. So he goes down there to infiltrate, he goes in there and then he runs up on Tagaroff and he's just like, yo, he's like, yo, you shot me, mother, he's just like, yo, he's like, people like you, you're out on bail. He's like, yo, I'm gonna take you down, and then they end up having a verbal joust back and forth. But he was just like, yo, what you gonna do? He was like, yo, you gonna fight me in a cop bar? And then he was just like, no, because I don't want any more reasons for you sons of bitches to try to kill me. So, but he was just like, yo, I heard you play poker, let's go settle this on the poker field. And then it was at that moment, so Tagaroff, he was just like, all right, so he went to go set up the poker game, and then Luke was at the bar, and then that's when it happened, where your boy John Diggle, JDZ, aka John Stewart, aka the Green Lantern, aka Black Driver, he pops up. He walks up to Luke and he's just like, I forgot what he said. It was something like, oh, I hope you're a good card player, or I hope you know what you're getting into, kid. So John Diggle popped up, and he also, I think he also directed the episode as well, because again, with the exception of Black Lightning, John Diggle was supposed to appear once on everyone's show this season. So they're all sitting at the poker table. They're doing, they're spreading out their chips. And then, Tagaroff, he asked John Diggle, he was like, yo, who are you? Where are you from? And then he said he's from Star City. And he said he's in Gotham because he's working out a contract with Argus. And I'm just sitting here, I'm like, I thought they moved to Metropolis. At the end of Arrow, I thought Diggle took his family to Metropolis, but he said he was still in Star City. So, and Cisco's on his way there too. So Cisco's at Argus, Diggle's at Argus, Lila's at Argus. So there's a lot of Argus-ism going around. And apparently it's all centered around Star City, but during the poker game, there was some verbal jousting going back and forth between Luke and between Tagaroff. Diggle picked up on it and he was just like, yo, y'all want to let me know about the personal beef that's going on between the two of you? And they're just like, nah, it's no beef. We're just two guys playing cards. There was a moment where Ryan, she ended up going down to the bar because her and Mary ended up tracking Luke's phone. And Ryan tried to talk to Luke and she was just like, oh, we need you. The Bat team needs you. And then that's when Luke was just like, yo, I got something I'm doing right now. He's like, I'm doing this poker thing. He said, and besides, he was like, yeah, I don't need me. He was like, you and Mary got this. And then, he told her, he was just like, yesterday, he's like, yesterday I was in the hospital, and then, like every doctor in the hospital pronounced me dead, but then you and Mary gave me the desert rose, and now here I am, so please let me go do what I'm gonna do. And then Ryan was like, I'm sorry, was it supposed to, I thought there was going to be like a thank you somewhere in there for saving my life. And then that's when he told her, he was just like, he's like, when I was under, he's like, I saw my dad and I wanted to be with my dad, and you and Mary brought me back. I didn't want to be brought back. He was like, I actually wanted to die. And then she looked at him, she was like, I don't give a damn what you want. And she was like, we're not gonna let you do that. And then he was just like, well, it's my life. And then he got mad and he went back into the bar. So he's playing the card game, and then, your boy Tagaroff, he threw down his cards. He had like his aces, whatever. And then Luke gave this whole speech about how the house always wins, but the house ain't shit. And then he threw his cards, and then he got his straight flush, and then Luke won the money. He basically won the money from all the cops that was in the bar. And then he was looking at everybody like, so what, I don't get a standing ovation? He's like, I don't get, he's like, like, I don't get no clapping. Like, it was really good. And then, he smugly, like, took all the money, talked his trash, and then he walked out of the bar. So while he's in the alley now, Tagaroff runs up on him in the alley and tries to fight him. And Luke put up a decent fight, because in season 1 of Batwoman, there was a scene where Luke was like training and taking boxing lessons, or like he was working on the boxing pad. So Luke knows how to box, and that didn't come into play earlier in the season when he was like running like a coward. But in this sense, like his boxing skills kind of came into play. But Tagaroff, he's a trained like crow, and he has like years and years of military and like government training. So he was able to take Luke down. He had Luke on the floor, punched him 2 or 3 times in the face, and then Diggle intervened. He threw Tagaroff off him, and then he was just like, oh, well, this isn't your fight, Diggle. And then he's just like, yo, first of all, he's like, yo, I heard you shot his black ass yesterday, and now you're mad at him because he disrespected you in the bar over a poker game. He was just like, no, we not doing that. So then Tagaroff goes away. Diggle helps Luke up, and then the two of them sit and talk. Diggle told him about his dad, how his dad died in the war. He died overseas. He never mentioned his stepfather, the General Stewart. I thought that would have been a cool mention, but then he just talked to him. I don't know a lot about you, but he was like, I know that you're Lucius Fox's son, and he was like, I know you're hurting because you lost your dad and you want to see your dad. He said, but trust me. He said, like at the end, he's like, you're going to see your dad again someday. So, but he was like, but what's important is that you live now, so you have stories to tell him when you do finally see him. And then Luke was just like, he was like, he said, so what, I'm just supposed to ignore the fact that I'm mad as hell? And then he was just like, no, he just said, you have to find a way to channel that anger, like Oliver Queen did. You got to find a way to channel that anger and use it for something positive. And then at that moment, the bat symbol went up into the air, and then they were flashing it like Morse code style. And then, Diggle understands Morse code, so he was just like, oh, basically like Batwoman needs Luke Fox. And then he was just like, see, he was like, the fact that the bat needs you, he's like, that sounds like somebody who's really important, So he was just like, yo, just make sure you do the right thing. And then, he told him, he was just like, all right, cool. He's like, I'm out. But he's like, thanks for the talk. While they were talking, there was a moment where Diggle kind of like put his hand on his head as though he had like a headache. And then Luke was just like, I heard, he said there's a neurosurgeon in Gotham General that we can show you to. And then he was just like, well, I'm actually going to go there tomorrow. He was like, because he said, I'm just having like issues, with like certain things. And I feel like the neurological issues that Diggle's having, I feel like it's a result of the Green Lantern ring. Because as of this moment, I don't think he's actually put the ring on yet. But because the ring is in his possession, it's connected to him already. The ring is calling out to him. The ring is trying to bond with him. And I think that's why he's having like headaches or like having like some neurological problems. I feel like it's related to the fact that the ring is calling him and he just hasn't put it on yet. But like I said, that's a theory, but we'll see what happens later. So then, so then that was it for Diggle. Like Luke went back to to Wayne Tower, and then Diggle went back into the bar. So we'll see what show he pops up on next, because again, he's gonna be on Superman and Lois, because the boy he's in Metropolis. There's Supergirl, there's the Flash. He's gonna be on the Flash. So we'll see what happens with Diggle. Now for the rest of the gang, so Alice and Jacob Kane, they basically busted into into Sionis's house. And they kidnapped Kate, and they brought Kate back to Crow's headquarters. While they were there, they did a DNA test, a DNA analyst, and they found out that it actually is Kate Kane. So then, like, Jacob was just like, oh my God, it's my daughter. Like, they had her tied up to a chair, and then they were just like, oh, you're Kate Kane. And she was like, I'm not Kate Kane. And then he was just like, the DNA says you're Kate Kane. And then they tried to work on this thing, because now their whole thing is they got to jog her memory. They got to get her memories back. So Ocean rolls up in there. He has, like, some items from her, because they said that since Nigma's dead, and we don't know what the secret word is, the only thing that we can do now is just use things from her past to try to jog her memory. Ocean came in, he was talking to, Jacob Kane. He was trying to like, he was calling him sir and, like Mr. Kane, because he was just like, I'm banging your daughter, so I kind of want you to like me. And then Alice even spoke to him about that. The two of them shared a kiss, and then, like he left. He was just like, okay, you two got this. I'm going home. I'm going home to get some sleep. So they're working on her. While they're trying to work on Kate's memories, Alice ended up, pulling up a mug from the past about how when Kate was afraid to come out to Alice when they were both younger. And then that kind of jogged her memory a little bit. Kate started getting some of her memories back. She ended up having a memory where instead of Alice as a child being trapped in that creepy dude's house, it was actually Kate who was trapped in the basement and Alice was coming to save her. But then, like Cersei Sionis is also there, because the whole metaphor thing is the real Kate Kane is trapped and the Cersei Sionis brainwashing is keeping her trapped. So they just got to break through the Cersei Sionis so they can get Kate, so they can go, which was nice to see, because it also gave like the child actors a chance to still be around. So Kate's like, kind of like fighting back and forth between who she is, but then she remembered a little bit about what, about what Alice told her. Then we get a scene with Sionis himself where he's just like, oh, Jacob Kane, like he's ruining the plans. We got to do something about Jacob Kane. And then we get a cameo from Sophia, who's basically been working with Sionis this whole time. And she was just like, oh, when I gave you the information about Kate Kane's flight from National City, she was like, I didn't know you'd kidnap her and try to brainwash her into being your child. And, and I was just like, wow, so the two of them actually were in cahoots, from the beginning, because, like Sophia worked with him to plan this whole Kate Kane thing from the beginning. And I'm still trying to find out what Sophia gained from all this, aside, I guess, from trying to get Alice, back under her clutches. But yeah, so the two of them, like Sophia and Sionis, those are the two big bads. They're both working together to try to take down like the Kane family. When Sophia saw the transformation that Kate's done, she's just like, oh, it's such a nice rendition. She was like, I understand that Nigma was the one who, got her brain back on track the way it was, they got her brain thinking that she's your daughter. But she's like, but how did she get the face and the mask? And then he was just like, oh, he was like, Alice was the one that did the face. And then she was like, you brought Alice and Kate Kane together in the same room. And he was like, yeah, it was like 2 days ago. He's like, why is that a big deal? She's like, because Alice is Beth Kane, you fool. And then she she was just like, bringing the two of them together will jog her memory. So then now Sophia got her goons on it. She's like, yo, y'all have to go down, then you'll have to get Alice and you have to bring Alice to me. So, so the Tatiana and the goons, they go down there, they run up on Alice, they run up on Jacob. And then after that, because Kate was kind of like going back and forth between remembering and not remembering, when the goon squad came in, Beth told her to run and Kate just ran. Like she ran outside and tried to get away from the goons. Like the goons basically, they snatched up Alice and they snatched up Jacob. When Kate went running outside, to go, to look for safety, Ryan almost hit her with the car. So she actually ran into Batwoman, which was kind of awkward because we had the meeting between Batwoman and Batwoman. So then, Batwoman, so then Ryan brought Kate back to Wayne Tower, and they were just, because at that point, Jacob had already told Mary that, we found Kate, that Sionis had Kate brainwashed. So the fact that Ryan found her, they brought her back. She brought her back to the tower. And then as soon as Mary saw her, she gave her a hug. And she was like, I thought I'd never see you again. And then she was just like, I'm sorry. Kate was like, I'm sorry, who are you? Because she's still a little wonky with the memory thing. So she doesn't remember anything. Like she doesn't remember her dad. She doesn't remember Alice. She doesn't remember Mary. She doesn't remember the whole Batwoman. Like seeing Batwoman did nothing for her. Like seeing Batwoman didn't trigger anything. So she still doesn't have her memories back, but she's questioning like a bunch of things as far as like, the DNA is concerned. But there was one person who she did recognize, and I thought this was awesome because out of all the things that she didn't remember, out of all the things she didn't know, when Sophie walked in the room, because I guess they called Sophie and they're just like, oh, we found Kate Kane. When Sophie walked in the room and then she was just like, oh my God, Kate, is that you? And then Ryan was just like, well, don't be too excited because she doesn't remember anything or anybody. The girl doesn't have her memories. And then she turned around and then Kate was like, oh my God, Sophie. And I was like, you remember Sophie of all people? I was just like, all right. I was like, you don't remember nothing about nothing, but you know who the MVP is. Shit, I wouldn't forget Sophie either. And then the two of them hugged and then everybody just like, okay, like, well, damn, and now they're starting to put a lot of questions together because they're just like, if that's the case, and if this is really Kate Kane, why would Julia lie about finding skull fragments? Because they don't know that Julia got brainwashed as well. So Julia's obviously going to make a comeback at some point. I forgot all about Julia, to be honest with you, so then so now everything's under question. And, they're still trying to like, get Kate back, and they're trying to like, slowly work on her memories. But then they find out, they were just like, Alice was actually kind of getting through to her. And she was the only person who was kind of getting through to her. Sophie basically said, she was like, in order for us to get Kate's memories back, we need Alice. And Sophia's goons ran up on Alice, and they kidnapped Alice. So we're going to need her back. We're going to need her back alive if we want to rescue and save Kate Kane. And then Mary went ballistic because, Mary's just like, yo, why are we saving Alice? And then, Jacob Kane ended up, going to Sionis's chair. And then he's just like, you son of a bitch, you stole my daughter. And then he was just like, I'm going to do more than that. Because Sionis basically told him, he's like, I got the GCPD on my payroll. And the GCPD, because Sionis still blames the Crows for why his real daughter actually died in Arkham. So he was just like, I got Gotham City on my payroll. He's like, so what we're going to do is we're going to charge you with aiding and abetting a known criminal known as Alice. And we're also going to spill the beans and tell everybody that she's Beth. So this way you'll be public shamed and you'll never be able to have a life or a career again. And if you tell anybody what I'm up to, if you tell people that I've got Gotham City, the police department like on the take, he's like, then we'll basically start killing members of your family now that we know all your daughters are alive. And then, after that, like Jacob Kane, he was on TV. The reporters were just like, oh, you're being arrested because you were aiding and abetting Alice. Is it true that she's your daughter? And then he was like, yeah, she's my daughter, Beth. And she's not a criminal, like she's a victim. And he was just like, I know she did a lot of terrible things, but I'm a father. And he said, before you judge Alice, just remember who Beth is. And then Beth actually saw that. And then, she started tearing up, and then she got all emotional because she finally feels like her dad cared. Like she realized that her dad did care all along, and her dad finally understands like who she is. So that emotionally kind of got to her, but now he's in prison now, and he's paying for the crimes that, that Alice created. Alice got sent to Sophia, so her and Sionis basically split the two of them up. Like, like Alice was with Sophia, and then she's just like, oh, you burned down my island, bitch, with all my desert rose. So she's like, I'm going to extract my revenge. And then while the Bat team was at the Batcave still waiting for Luke to show up, they were, when they were talking about how to get Alice back, Ryan had said, she was just like, well, we have the only desert rose that's left in existence. And, she was like, I could trade this to her because all she really wants, Sophia just wants to rebuild her kingdom. So she said, if I give her the last desert rose, then we can trade her for Alice, and then we can bring Alice back, and we can help, Alice can help get Kate's memories back. But then they're just like, oh, but that was the plant that your mom gave you. She was like, oh, but I gotta do what I gotta do. So Batwoman goes down there, she sees Sophia, she makes the trade. Sophia was just like, why are you doing this for someone you don't care about? And then she was just like, well, I owe it to the symbol of the bat, to do the right thing here. So she's like, fine. She's like, I'll make the trade. So, she gives her the Desert Rose. They give Batwoman Alice, and they're getting ready to leave to go try to help get Kate's memories back. But then just before they walked out the door, Alice couldn't help herself. And then she was just like, oh, it's funny. She's like, you said I can't have it all, but I got my boyfriend, I got my sister back, I got my daddy, I got my family, and all you have is some stinking plant. And then she was just like, bitch, she was like, you think you have it all, but you're not allowed to have it all because you don't deserve it all. At that point she realized, she was like, what did you do to Ocean? And then she ran out to go see what happened to Ocean. And then Batwoman was like, bitch, get your ass in the car. Because she's like, I ain't trade away my mama flower just so you can leave and go to your boyfriend. And then she was like, look, she was like, I love him. And besides, she said that if Kate's memories are almost returned anyway, then she'll understand why I disappointed her, because that's what I do. And then she took off and she ran to go find Ocean. I don't know why Batwoman just didn't go with her, but after she went after Ocean, Ryan was just like, all right, screw it, and she went back to Wayne Tower. Beth found Ocean. He was dead in their secret hideout, and Tatiana basically killed him. And then Tatiana tried to run up on Alice, and then Alice killed Tatiana. So now it's just like, well, Tatiana's dead, Ocean's dead, and then Beth was like crying, she was like crying because obviously that was the love of her life. Ryan goes back to Wayne Tower. Actually, they weren't at Wayne Tower. I think they were at the bar. And then when she was at the bar, like Luke finally showed up, and then then Ryan was just like, look, I'm gonna tell you this straight up, mother. I don't give a damn what you chose to do when you were in the afterlife. She was like, I'm not going to apologize for saving your ass because I need Luke Fox, damn it. So she's like, you just got to deal with the fact that I care about you. And then he gave her a hug. While Sophie and Kate were talking, Kate had asked Sophie if she can go get some booze out of her drawer. When Sophie left the room, Kate's programming kicked back in, and Cersei took over again. And when Cersei took over, Kate got up and then she left and she walked out of the room. So then when Luke saw Mary, Luke and Mary like held hands, and then Mary was like, oh, Kate's alive. And then Luke was just like, well, shit, I missed a lot. But they was just like, oh, and then Sophie came in and she was like, oh, Kate's gone. And they didn't know where she was. But then Kate went back to Sionis. And then when she went back to Sionis, she was like, am I Kate Kane? Why do I have her fingerprints and her DNA? And then he was just like, no, you're my daughter. You're my daughter. And then Sophia busted in and she was just like, oh no, honey. She was like, I believe that everybody gets a chance to choose who they want to be. So if she wants to be Kate Kane, then let her be Kate Kane. And then, that's how the credits roll. So Sophia is basically taking over this whole thing right now because Sophia controls Sionis. It's very clear that Sionis works for Sophia. And Sophia has her Desert Rose back. She already killed Ocean. And at some point, she's probably going to try to kill Beth too, because I don't think she's going to honor that agreement with the whole trade because she made the trade already. So, but I want to see what her overall plan is as to why she's in Gotham now, because I'm pretty sure she didn't come to Gotham strictly just to get Beth, because she could have sent her goons to go get Beth. She didn't have to do this whole thing. She didn't have to come herself. So obviously there's a bigger plan there between Sionis, between both Sionis and, and Sophia as well. And we'll obviously figure that out as the show progresses. Luke is slowly going to be on the path now, so we're going to get side missions with Luke as he's doing the Batwing thing. I actually saw a picture of him in the costume. It looked dope. Jacob Kane is in prison now. He's in prison again, so we're going to have to deal with the whole thing about him being in prison, and Mary's still trying to be the glue that holds everybody together, and Sophie's going to get more involved now that everybody knows that Kate's alive. So this is very cool, and thank you for tuning in. So let me know what you thought about, the John Diggle situation. Although he wasn't there that long, it was still nice to see Jay Deasy, pop up again. Let me know what you think about the storyline between Sophia and Sionis and Kate, because this is really good. People unnecessarily gave the show a lot of flack when season 2 started, and a good chunk of it was strictly because she was black. And a lot of people were just like, oh, but the story. And it's just like, you got to give stuff time to breathe. And it's like, now that we know who Ryan is, we know who these people are, now that we've accepted her as Batwoman, the story's getting really good. And there's so many moving parts here, and I want to see how all this progresses. And it's also cool that despite everything that's going on, we still got a Kate Kane, we still get to keep Ryan as Batwoman. And then now Luke's going to become Batwing. So I want to see what everybody's problem is. This shit is really good. So let's keep this thing going. And like I said, thank you for tuning in. Leave your comments below. Let me know what you think is what's going to happen, because again, we only got 5 or 6 episodes left. So let me know your theories on what's going to happen with the Bat team. Let me know your theories on how you think the season's going to end. Does Luke suit up in the season finale? Does he suit up next season? And we'll go from there. Hit me up on YouTube, hit me up on Instagram, hit me up on Twitter, and like I said, we'll keep the conversation going until the next one. So thanks for tuning in, guys. So for Batwoman, until next time, take care, guys, and I'm out this bitch.